NASA forecasts severe flooding in the mid-2030s in US coastal locations that may remain wetter for longer, and it might result in significant losses across the country. Flood damage in South Carolina has been so severe in the last 5 years that the state just planted 3 million seeds to prevent more harm. However, an unlikely culprit is to blame for the 2030s flooding, and that is the moon. In this video, we're going to talk about how the moon could flood the Earth in 2030, and all the latest controversies around it. So, let's get started with the video without further ado. The moon's orbit is prone to wobbling. This is completely normal, and has been reported as long back as 1728. Half of the moon's 18.6-year cycle results in lower high tides and higher low tides, whereas the other half results in higher high tides and lower low tides. Global sea level rise would likely raise those high tides, and one of the study's co-authors, NASA Sea Level Change Team leader Ben Hamilton, believes that because the waters will be higher, this moon cycle will have a much more dramatic effect. In these coastal places, we're getting closer and closer to the flooding thresholds, or tipping point, he warned. The same unpredictability that did not produce flooding in the past will now create flooding. High tides are already exceeding known flooding levels in the United States. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said that high tides, or sunny day flooding, continued to establish records in 2019. However, the study found that high tides will surpass flooding thresholds more frequently. Floods, according to NASA, might possibly begin in clusters that last for a month or longer, depending on how the sun, moon, and Earth are positioned. Low-lying places near sea levels are increasingly vulnerable and suffering as a result of increased floods, and the situation will only worsen. The moon's gravitational pull, rising sea levels, and climate change will intensify coastal flooding on our coastlines and around the planet. Coastal cities have already begun to prepare, but catastrophic flooding is approaching faster than many anticipated. Cities and urban planners along the beaches that are already accustomed with high tide flooding have started taking precautions, but scientists indicate that higher tides and longer floods are coming sooner than expected. A lot of forecasts that coastal planners offer are up to 2100, but the impacts we're going to experience due to how these multiple variables and processes are merging are much shorter term. These enormous, dramatic developments are going to happen in the next decade or two. A recent study on high tide flooding forecast that the mid-2030s in United States coastal regions might be catastrophically wet, and that this could last for a whole decade. The study, conducted by members of the NASA Sea Level Change Team at the University of Hawaii, claims that the high tide flooding may become more common on numerous US coasts. Flooding at high tide, often known as nuisance flooding, occurs on a regular basis in many coastal cities as water sloshes into streets, yards, and businesses. Hurricanes and other extreme weather events have already become more frequent and severe as a result of climate change. However, there is a less visible menace on the horizon that might devastate America's coasts. Nuisance floods occur in coastal locations when the tides rise over the daily normal high tide by roughly 0.6 meters and begin to flood streets or seep down into storm drains. These floods, true to their moniker, are more of a nuisance than a disaster, inundating streets and homes, forcing businesses to close and causing cesspools to overflow. But the longer they linger, the more damage they can cause. The United States has had more than 600 of these floods in 2019. However, a new NASA-led study predicts the nuisance floods will become far more common in the United States as early as the 2030s, with the bulk of the country's coastlines anticipated to witness 3 to 4 times as many high tide flood days each year for at least a decade. Nature Climate Change, a monthly peer-reviewed scientific journal, warns that the extra flood days will not be spread out evenly throughout the year, but will likely cluster together over a few months. Coastal areas that now face 2 or 3 floods per month may soon face a dozen or more. These extended coastal flood seasons will create substantial disruptions to lives if communities do not begin planning for them now, according to the study. What matters is the cumulative effect over time. A firm cannot continue to operate if its parking lot floods 10 or 15 times per month. People lose their employment as a result of being unable to get to work. This expected rise in flood days is driven by several causes. One example is the rising sea level. As global warming increases the temperature in the atmosphere, glacier ice melts at an unprecedented rate, pouring massive amounts of melted water into the ocean. According to the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, global average sea levels have risen around 8 to 9 inches since 1880, with about a third of it occurring in the past 25 years alone. Depending how efficiently humans limit greenhouse gas emissions in the following decades, sea levels might rise anywhere from 12 inches to 8.2 feet over where they were in 2000 by the year 2100. The moon influences tides, but the strength of the moon's attraction varies from year to year. The moon's orbit has a wobble, slightly adjusting its location relative to Earth on a periodic 18.6-year cycle. The moon lowers the tides on Earth for half of the cycle, resulting in lower high tides and higher low tides. Tides are amplified during the opposite half of the cycle, with higher high tides and lower low tides. We are currently in the tide amplifying phase of the cycle. The next tide amplifying phase begins in the mid-2030s, and by then, global sea levels will have risen sufficiently to make those higher than normal high tides very problematic, the researchers discovered. High tide flooding would grow rapidly across the whole US coast as a result of the combined effect of sea level rise and the lunar cycle. High tide flooding will transition from a regional concern to a national issue, with a majority of US coastlines affected in less than a decade. Other climate cycle variables, such as El Niño events, will cause these flood days to cluster in specific areas of the year, resulting in entire months of unrelenting coastal flooding. The difference in the moon's gravitational pull between the near and far sides of the Earth is around 7% of the average force. However, the tides are more varied than you would expect based on the moon's gravity and speed around the Earth. This is because the moon's gravitational pull is complicated by various reasons. The first problem affecting tides is that the moon orbits Earth in an elliptical orbit, which means its distance from Earth changes. Again, the stronger the moon's gravitational pull, the closer it is to Earth. Secondly, we have solar tides. They function just like lunar tides, but the highest solar tides occur at the places closest and furthest from the sun. The sun is now far further away from the Earth than the moon, but it is also much more massive. Because of these two considerations, the solar tidal force is roughly half as strong as the lunar tidal force. Because the height of the tides is determined by the alignment of Earth, Moon, and the Sun, when all three are in alignment, the tidal forces of the Moon and the Sun pull in the same direction. These cause the highest tides, known as spring tides. The ocean itself is a third problem. Do you think that the Moon could flood the Earth in 2030? Is that even possible? We would love to read your opinions in the comments section below. If you find asteroids and recent discoveries fascinating, please take a look at our video library about Apophis that is shown right here. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did like the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. And we'll see you in a new video. Take care.